Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
Okay, so really want to thank also FPESP and also my employer, Microsoft Research, but really wanted to just cover a couple things in this talk. And this is, I'll tell you in a second here why I'm doing this. It's going to be a little bit different than anything else hopefully you did today, and hopefully I'll keep you guys awake for it. Ah, perfect. Thank you. So the title that was originally published was one we came out with on a fly, so don't think you're going to get any great insights from me. What we really want to do is actually have a discussion about kind of expanding the horizons of your research, of what you're doing, of how you're looking around, and also hopefully get your research or other activities more broadly disseminated. So that's kind of what I wanted to cover. Give you my little full disclosure here. So since I work for Microsoft Research, I'm familiar with most of the stuff we do and what the company does. So any of the samples I kind of show will be based off of those, or what we want to discuss about. There's a link to both my blog and to the eScience blog that we also run out of our group, and my Twitter account if you want to send something out, only if it's positive, okay? So, good. All right, one other little thing I wanted to try today. I put a link up there to a OneNote notebook. It's up on SkyDrive. You can go there right now. I don't have everything in there, but what I wanted to do is actually have this to be an interactive discussion, not me lecturing to you and not with that I have all the knowledge or info here. But we are, like anything else in this day and age, we learn from each other. We learn about new things that are happening, the speed at which some of the developments or new technologies or new websites or new sharing comes out happens very quickly. So keeping up to date with those is tough. How do we know and how do we keep track of that? And what are some new ways of doing it? So I want to also cover some other little things. This will be the bulk of what I talk about. But if anyone, let's see. Oh, hold on. Okay, so, oops, let me move this over. I'll show you that this is actually live. All right, oops. All right. So you guys can feel free to actually add anything in here on any of these lines as we're going around talking. And if I don't see anything added by the end of the talk, I'll just keep talking and bore you to death. So I expect somebody to add something, and we'll check it later. All right. But really, this is kind of where we're all at right now. The kind of, I'll say the typical model of what we see of academic research. There's information that gets disseminated through typical environment of things like your papers, through journal articles, through conferences, events, workshops, getting the information out that way, through posters. And depending on which domain you're in, posters sometimes have a higher value than some of the other information. That's one of the ways to get some of the quickest information out, or the most timely information. But how do you do that in a way also that gets that out? And then obviously, one of the typical things is web pages. So this is kind of the current state. We're all used to this, but are there other ways that we can do this and other ways to get some of the information out? And so that's really what I want to kind of see about and talk about. And one of the ways, obviously, is with the papers, getting those out. And one of the things we look at is how you can get things wider distribution of your information. So in this case, there's, and you'll hear about it tomorrow from Tony, probably during his keynote, about using open access publishing, both through traditional publishers and through open repositories through the universities. It's a way to make it more available. But there's also, can you leverage some of these little, I call them paper sites, places that you can actually not only post your papers, but you can also post the links to them and the citations about them. And we have one through the Academic Search. There's the ResearchGate, which you may or may not be seeing, seems to be growing. They just got $20 million in funding this week. There's Mendeley that just got bought by Elsevier. But these are all ways to not only track other people's papers, but what's kind of going on, how quickly, and see those. And there's a reason why this is kind of also interesting, is because when you do actually participate in these communities, not only searching for other information or participating or putting up your own, you end up creating profiles. And so you end up having ways of also projecting yourself out more to a wider community, right? So not only about you, but about your work and getting that also more visible. So, 3 different versions of me up there, and actually none of them are totally up to date because I always have a hard time moving the citations around, pushing them out and putting them up. But it's one thing you want to do in your research. I don't have to worry about that as much as you will, so I don't update mine as often. But those are things to kind of also look at. It's also a good way to also track other people's papers that you want to follow, see what's happening, and see how those go along. So that's one thing actually, and are there others that you guys know about? So when I said it's interactive, if anyone has any other ones, please, anytime during this, you can interrupt. So otherwise, remember, I'll just keep talking and talking and talking and talking. Yeah. So think about these actually, and how many participate in any of these? And people from Microsoft don't count. So, okay. So yeah, so as you're also trying to grow your career or interact with others or find other people, this is another way to do that. Because the challenge always is, how do you find not only people in your domain, but across domains, possibly, in other areas, in other countries, in other institutions. And the way you find most of them nowadays, through the traditional means, is you find them through either your work groups, or the conferences, or the workshops that you attend. Now this is actually a different one, right? Because you're bringing in people not only from around the world, but also from many different domains. And so it's also a good opportunity to start the networking across those, to find out about other activities happening in other institutions. Has anyone here introduced themselves to somebody they didn't know before today? Oh, okay, good. You guys raised your hands. Jeez, I was getting worried. Well, it's late, but still, your arms can't be that tired. So those are some of the things. Make sure that always happens. Growing your network is one way to do that. But also figuring out growing on your online kind of network and being your persona that way as well. Did I go? Oh. There's also a different one that we have also through Bing, so I always highlight this one as well, which is there's an idea in Bing called tagging. It's in beta right now, but the idea is tagging about your profile, who you are, and pages, other information about that. And it also helps then create that profile. So if somebody's doing a generic search on a location, they'll find those as well. So you can actually go there and tag that. The nice part is, even if you tag it or you tag other people that you know, they have to approve them. So they don't automatically, get pushed out there. So those embarrassing photos that you have that are lingering out on the Facebook or other places, those don't have to show up. So think about that as also other ways to get your information out. And there's many others, some that I know about, some others. Then, there's also these things, the total social media, they're all their profiles as well. And some can be used for different pieces or another. One thing that's interesting, just for you to know, I was trying to download the Facebook logo today here. They block all that. Wasn't even able to get the logo, which was wasn't even from their site anywhere. So I thought that was amusing. So that's why that one's not up there. We're seeing also a lot more use of LinkedIn for professional networks, and it's a good way also for post schooling and others to keep connections with folks, also to find other jobs and other activities. Plus some of the groupings that they have in there, we use it, in fact, in our org, and also we use it externally with groups for around things like eScience, other activities, communicating events, activities that are going on. So it's another one that we utilize as well. One other one I just want to talk about when you're talking about making data, or not just data, information more accessible and visible and disseminated. One of the ways is also having the web pages translated and making those available so that others can get to those much easier in whatever language. Also, the key thing is you want them findable from search engines. So using some of the translation products, either that we have or other companies have, is a good way to actually do that, making sure that they're findable and disseminated. So there's the translator piece. Actually, if you have any questions on it, Chris has all the answers. She's actually worked on the product, and she knows how it works. So feel free to pin her in the corner later and ask her any of this. Also, one of the cool things is if you're working on a paper or document or article, even doing direct translations of those in something like Word, there's the functionality already built in. So it'll send it off, translate it, so you can actually have the another language version of it. One of the ways you can get search engines to find things that you might want them to find is to do the multiple versions in the other languages, even in hidden pages that they find. And then one of them I actually find very useful is over there on the right. Even as you're using a document or reading in a document, you can do the translations directly in there on just a word. So the one over there on the right showing that. But translation is obviously a key thing for getting it out beyond the bounds of either your locale or language. Multimedia. In this generation, as I'm looking around, much younger than I am, videos seem to be much more prevalent. We're seeing that in the trends and the usage patterns and things like that. So one of the things that's also very useful, and we do this for some of the work that we look at, is telling the story about the information or the research is really important. Allowing that to be consumable by someone else and much more accessible so that then they dig into your paper is really a good thing to do. So doing it either through videos, even if it's a podcast or other things through an auditory type ways, there's ways to kind of get the information out. So sometimes, some of the things I'm kind of talking about, you may think of are on kind of that marketing edge. And you know what? As you move forward in your career, you're essentially marketing yourself. So how do you market your information and stuff about you, the work you've done in different ways? And so think about that as well as you're working on it. But disseminating the information is a really key thing using video. In this case, we're Microsoft Research ourselves. We publish out different ones on, this is on the LumaShare or LumaRoom. And so it's up on YouTube, having a subscription out there. The piece I didn't put in here also about that we do on some of our sites with videos is speech to text in the video. So we have a project called Maviz, which is about, it actually does the automatic translation, and it uses machine learning to actually look at the words, and so you can actually do text-based searches into the videos, find the videos that you want to, and in fact the sections, and jump to those and actually read and listen to those. That's a key thing when somebody's looking for a specific term, and if they only find it once in a video, probably not useful watching that, even if it's a 3-minute video, right? If it's in there about 10 times, then probably it's much more germane, and especially as you go down to more specific areas in the sciences. The Maviz project, we do it through our research sites and other videos we have, but also we've been working with the folks at Department of Energy. All their videos are actually now made available that way, as well as places like JPL. So they have all their videos text searchable as well. And it actually changes how you start watching videos as well, jumping to the areas you want to, finding out if that's really what you want it to do, much the way you do for a text search into a paper. And obviously, photos are always a good thing as well. I couldn't find a good one, so I put that one in there. You don't really have to call me. But adding photos of the projects, of the work, because it does help communicate across bounds, across domains, lets people understand what you're talking about. There's sometimes a challenge, especially in the science domains, where you're publishing out information that I'll say is there's sometimes a need to flex the mental muscle and actually show everyone how tough or big your muscle is. And sometimes that's harder for people cross domains to actually be able to pick it up and understand how it could be used in their space. So if you're also looking in kind of an e-science type way of how to make your information more broadly available, think of it in that terms as well, as that, what's the dummy handbook version of it. So think of sometimes that. How can you present it in a way that's very consumable? And photos and others help. Putting out information in the Flickr groups or photo streams is good as well. One of the other things we look at as a way to project yourself out and get information out more broadly is through things like guest speakers, either at workshops or other areas. But we've also been looking at how it can be worked with things like Skype directly across. And the Skype team actually, their whole group has a Skype in the Classroom activity, which I'll say a lot of it focuses around, say, the K through 12, the younger areas, getting information out that way. But they actually work across universities and guest speakers, and you can actually have the video. By doing it, you get the free video sharing group part for free. It's a really neat way of actually going, interacting, and also disseminating information without actually having to do sometimes all the travel and or put up with some of the other issues that you might have to. The one right there is actually when we did at an event, South by Southwest in Austin. That was actually NASA in their clean room. So at Goddard Johnson has the largest clean room in the world, and we were able to actually have the person walk around with a device and give the Q&A directly from there into an area that no one gets to go to, right? So this idea of also virtual tours and actually being an expert, showing information about a place, even if it's a project or it's a method of how you do it, is really powerful. And as we're seeing more in this day and age, the use of video and that interactivity is a really, much more engaging kind of way of doing it. So think about that sometimes. May not be useful in all those doing the virtual tours, but if you have a unique asset or you have a unique piece that you're actually working on, it may be a way to get that out broader. So again, don't just limit yourself to kind of some of the traditional ways. And really, one of the things, like I said, what are some of the other thoughts that folks here might have? I didn't go into all of them because I wanted to leave room for other folks as to what they might have. And did anyone add anything? To find out. Nothing on the paper site? Nothing there? Okay, so I guess I'm going to have to keep talking. Okay, I'll make sure. Oops. Nope, it should be. Yep. Should be all. Unless somebody's put something up there and I don't know. Chris is probably working on it. So, anyone have any other thoughts or things that they've tried? Oh. All right, there we go.
I'll repeat that. So as far as disseminating your work through software that doesn't fit into a publication and can't be made open source for various reasons, but you want to put an executable out there, do you have suggestions for that?
For where to put the executable or for how to actually get it out and make it more visible?
Both, I guess.
Okay. So actually, that's actually a good question. I don't have it for the executables. The thing about just getting it out there, you're going to use some of the same probably techniques probably to make it more visible, and it'll be the output of whatever you're trying to do will be, and the description around it will be the piece that's makes it more engaging for others. But part of it will be not as much, say it was you delivering the ways out, but actually your collaborators that would be using it. You would hope that they would also get the word out. So yeah, you know, the old thing of about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, of hoping something got slashdotted and that would take off the world, you know, it's tough still, right? There's many different ways of kind of doing it. Or do you get a YouTube video and you do it with a musical dance number in it, and you'll probably get a, you know, get people to look at it. So yeah, it depends on how it gets. So I don't have. If you have any or other thoughts, we actually as a company also put a lot of our stuff out through GitHub, which is also another place that you can push the data, but not. I'm not sure if you can just put the executables out. Roman.
Yeah, as a software engineer, I would like to add, first, GitHub is the best now for visibility. It's the most cool open source site of the day. We also have Codeplex as another open source repository for your project for your files. And this is a cheap way to publish and get visibility.
Okay. Any other questions? There was somebody back there. There, way in the back. Oh, Jesus, Carol.
Hello. I like Microsoft Academic, and I also use Google Scholar, because as a computer scientist, I assign someone doesn't crack it with me. But Microsoft Academic is really bad for misunderstanding who you are. So you end up with several personas in it, which is really hard to combine, and it mistakes you for other people in a way that Google doesn't. Is there any work likely to be done? Because on the other hand, it's much better for the quality of the material you get back. So when it gets you right, it's great. And when it gets you wrong, it sucks.
Right. No, so the disambiguation of who the person is work that is going on in that team. And with the next release, I think you'll actually see that improve. In fact, one of the things they're doing is revamping a lot of the work they're doing in there, so you don't actually see it, and they'll put it out soon. But actually, that's actually a good piece. Good question. The problem, though, with that is that means you've written them in so many different names that you've had.
Yeah, I haven't changed my name.
No, the
initials.
The initials.
Yeah,
the initials, yeah.
But I have colleagues who, particularly Spanish colleagues, who are real trouble.
Yeah.
Because it just mixes up all of the Oscar Giochos, and then they can't use it. And it's really the best thing for promotion cases.
Yes. So also feel free to always share that with Tony, too.
I'm having dinner with him tonight. So
Yeah. Good. Any others? Wow. You guys are really timed out here, huh? Okay. So that was kind of all I just wanted to go through a few quick things and didn't want to take a lot of time for you guys because I knew it was going to be at the end of the day. We're going to be here through the rest of the week. If you have anything, also the, good, somebody actually added, Chris added something up there. So actually, if you have other ones, feel free to put them up there as you're going along. Feel free to use it as a resource. But one of the things we just want to do is understand what's other ways that you think you might need to get your information out, if it's not only just source code, but binaries, visibility for other information, and how we can do that as well. The one other one I didn't put on here that we use sometimes as well is Reddit. So if you actually use that as well, that's a good way also to get articles out or information out as well. And if you can get it populated up. So that's another thing to use. So good. Well, where are we at here? Let me go back to here. Good. Perfect. Thank you.